The Time Machine, Chapter 8. I did not try to fight off those hands. There were too many of them. I did not have the time to spare. My only chance was to make my move fast, before any more of the Morlocks grabbed me. I felt my way to the seat of the time machine, dragging Morlocks with me. I sat down in it. I found the openings for the levers. I shoved one into place, then the other. By now the Morlocks were almost pulling me from my seat. Their hands were cold and damp. Their warm breath stank. I put all my strength into a sweep of my arm, a savage sweep that sent the Morlocks flying. Then I pulled down on the time travel lever as hard as I could. For a moment I thought I would die. The machine was not made to be started that way. But it worked. That was the important thing. I looked at the dial. The Morlocks were 1,000,000 years behind me. True, I had pulled the lever the wrong way. I was going into the future, not the past, but I did not mind. I would take another look at things to come. Then I would head back. I brought the machine to a stop. I found myself on an empty beach. It was on the edge of a smooth, dead sea. The only signs of life were a few crawling crabs. The sun was a huge red ball. The air was as hot as an oven. The earth was very close to the sun now. Soon it would burn up. I wiped sweat from my brow. I was lucky to stop when I did, before I reached the end of the world, and my own end as well. I pushed the lever up to send me back through time, back to the year 1895, back to the evening of September 22nd. This time I watched the dials closely. When I reached 1900, I slowed the machine. I passed into 1895. I slowed it still more. Then I brought it to a sharp stop. I was back in my laboratory. I got out of the machine. I looked in a mirror. My face was unshaven. My clothes were dusty and torn. No matter. My friends would understand. I entered the dining room. They were just finishing dinner. "I hope you enjoyed the meal," I said. "I told my housekeeper to do her very best." "It was fine," the writer said. He smacked his lips. "Delicious," said the politician. He was finishing the last crumbs of his cake. "You'll have to tell quite a tasty tale to top it," the psychologist was smiling as he spoke. "I will let you be the judge of that," I said. I sat down at the head of the table and I told them my story. When I finished, my friends looked at one another. The doctor spoke for all of them. "It's a wonderful story," he said, "but do you have proof?" "I can only give you my word of honor," I said. Their faces fell. Then I added, "Oh yes, and this." I pulled from my pocket a handful of flowers, the flowers that Weena gave me after I saved her life. I handed them to the doctor. I knew his hobby was the study of flowers. He looked at them closely. At last he spoke. "I've never seen flowers like these," he admitted. "Nor will you, unless you travel in my time machine," I told him. "They are proof of my story." I looked at the flowers sadly. I thought of Weena. I could almost see her again. "They are proof of something else, too," I said. "Proof that people of the future still could feel gratitude. They still could feel love." "Too bad your story has such an unhappy ending," said the writer. He shook his head. "It's a pity about Weena, and even more of a pity about the human race." "Perhaps I can come up with a different ending," I said. "I'll see what I can do. Please come to dinner next week. I'll have another story for you." I told them nothing more. Only now will I write down what I plan to do. Then I will get in the time machine again. I will return to 802,701 AD. I will arrive among the Eloi once more, but this time I will bring them a gift, the gift of knowledge. I will teach them what earliest man had to learn. I will teach them how to use fire. Perhaps that will let them drive off the Morlocks. Perhaps that will make them brave. Perhaps they will start to stand on their own feet. Perhaps they will grow to become human. Perhaps. All I can do is give them the chance. All I can do is put their fate into their own hands. All I can do, as I set out in my time machine, is hope. A final note. This is not the time traveler who is writing now. This is his friend, the writer. His other friends and I found the story you have just read. It was on the dining room table when we arrived the next week. Since then, we have been waiting for the time traveler, waiting for him to give us the final chapter. But the time traveler set off on his journey 3 years ago, and he has not yet returned.